Hey, it's Mr. Engstrom. Let's take a look at homework. We had, how many did we have? We had 10 problems. All right, so we're going to look at, well, let's look at the odds, okay? All right, so if you got stuck or if you weren't able to start, you got another chance. Let's get this done, okay? So let me help you through a couple of these, finish on your own, and that's all you'll need to do today. But let's get these done. Okay, let's take a look at number one. Because the center is negative 5, 6, we know h is negative 5, k is 6. And remember in here, we have x minus h squared. And then here we have y minus k squared. And then we have either a squared or b squared. Just depends on which one's bigger. We always call a squared the bigger one, but right now we might not even know where that goes. So we've got to put h k into here. So now we have this. We have x minus negative 5. We usually write as x plus 5 squared. Don't forget the squared. And then we got a plus. Then we got y minus 6 squared. And then don't forget the equals 1. So here's a little sketch. We have negative 5, 6 is the center. 7, 6 is a vertex. And then our ellipse would look something like, that's not even close to what that looks like, but yeah, I think you get the idea. Okay, let's get rid of that because that's ugly. Okay, the idea being that the major axis is horizontal. I know that by looking here at the focus, at one of the foci, that's just one of them. It starts at negative 5, 6, and it goes to the right through root 7. We'll deal with that. That is how that's C. That's how we're going to find our other denominator. So here we go. So we know that we need this distance here, and this distance is what we call A. That's going to be, because it's the bigger one. If we knew it was the smaller one, we'd call it B. Okay, but we have negative 5, 6 to negative 7, 6. And so to get this distance, we take 7 minus negative 5, of course. That's 12, right? So A is 12. 12 squared, 144. Okay, so now we need that denominator, and we know that 3 root 7 is C. So C is 3 root 7. I can put this a little bit differently. I know that, let me change my pen here. Here we go. So I know that C is the square root of 9 times the square root of 7, which is the square root of 63. Okay, all right, and so I know the square root of 63, C, is equal to the square root of a squared minus b squared. Remember, a squared and b squared are the denominators, because now we're looking for the other denominator. So I have 63 equals this. That's how I find that other denominator, and it goes there. In number 3, I see that the center is negative 7, 1. A co-vertex, just one of the vertices is 1, 1. Now, when people or a book or a worksheet calls it a co-vertex, it really means it's a vertex on the minor axis. But we kind of know that from this focus as well, because if we start at 7, 1 and we go up and down, I know that because we're adding to the y coordinate here, 1, right? We're adding 4 root 5. So that means we're going up. So what that tells me is that the major axis is vertical. So when we have, that's awful. But if we have this ellipse there, I realize that the major axis is vertical. I go further up and down for the vertices, then I go left and right. Okay, so that means this right here, this distance, that line looks straight. Okay, here we go. So that's actually B, right? That's the smaller of the two. And so B squared is going to be the smaller of the two denominators, which is going to go under the X because I'm going left and right from the center. Okay, and B goes in the denominator under the X. It's that thing right there. Okay, let's erase that. There we go. And so the distance B here is, remember how we used subtraction. So we can go 1 minus negative 7. You could actually go negative 7 minus 1, take the absolute value of it. It's 8. So if you draw it out on graph paper, you count boxes, it's 8. So 8 squared is 64. Now we have to find the other denominator. Remember, we're going to use C for that. And remember, here's what C is. C equals the square root of the difference of the denominators. Okay? Square root of the difference of the denominators. And so I know that C is 4 root 5. C equals 4 root 5. Well, that's the square root of 16, because that's 4. So that's the square root of 80. That means that plugging this in here, the square root of 80 equals, now remember that's 64. That wasn't the bigger denominator. That had to be the smaller one, B, because of this, I knew that the major axis is vertical. So that means that 64, that's the smaller one, that's B. And so it's the square root of big denominator minus the smaller denominator, okay? And so, of course, what we have now is we have 80 equals that smaller denominator minus 64, okay? So the smaller denominator minus 64 equals 80. We'll add a 64 on both sides because that's kind of an equation that we have there, right? 80 equals this minus 64. Add a 64 on both sides to find what that is, and it is 144. And so there's our answer to number 3. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do number 9, and hopefully that'll push you in the right direction to be able to get your questions answered and finish the rest of this worksheet, which was your homework. So let's take a look at number 9. I have 2 vertices here. The center is the midpoint of that, so you can use the midpoint formula, or boom, there's the center. It is -3, -6, and so that's going to help us write the equation. Don't forget the equals 1 here. Then we have x minus -3. That's x plus 3. Y minus -6 is y plus 6. Okay, we're going to get one denominator fairly easily. Then the other one we gotta work for a little bit. Okay, so let's take a look at the one that's a little bit easier. Okay, the one that's a little bit easier is, here's the center, here's the vertex. So let's find the distance between these two. Okay, then we have to realize, well, is that going to help me get the bigger denominator or the smaller one? Right now I know it's under the x because we're going left and right from the center. We just got to figure out how far. Well, from -3 to 5, that's 5 minus -3, that's 8. Okay, if you put it on graph paper, very easy to count boxes, but that's 8. And we know that 8 squared, well, that's 64. Okay. So now we want to put a little thought into how we're going to find this. Of course, we're going to use C, 2 root 7, okay, like we did in the last problem. But here we see that the major axis is horizontal. I know that because I go, I'm adding and subtracting to get the foci, right? Adding and subtracting to the x coordinate, so moving left and right, okay? All right, so that tells me that 64 is the bigger one. So when we go C equals the square root of the difference of the denominators, I'm going to put that 64 first because I know that's the bigger one. And so I'm actually looking for, I could call that B squared. Okay, I'm looking for B squared. That's what I'm looking for. I usually don't call it B squared when I write things down when I show this to students because they think that they need B. So we're not taking the square root of anything. So I'm just going to leave a space there. And now let's figure out what C is. Well, we already said C is 2 root 7. Well, C is 2 is the square root of 4. So the square root of 4 times the square root of 7, that is the square root of 28. And so now I have the square root of, that's a 2. Right? Square root of 28 equals the square root of 64 minus something. Okay? I can square both sides, and what that does for me, of course, is get rid of the square root. So I got 28 equals 64 minus blank. So to get what's in the blank, we take 64 minus 28, and that is 36. So 36 goes in the denominator. Boom! There's your answer for number 9. Go ahead and make sure that's all done. Finish that up, and that's it for today. Hey, you guys are awesome. Just stay focused, and we'll do this together. Email me if you have any questions. I'll see you.